potential makeups of the Parliament after the election, how do you think New Zealanders will feel if the government is made up by the less popular party, i.e. the more popular party with an opposition?
Well, I've always thought that there's an argument that the largest party has a moral mandate to have the first reasonable shot at forming a government. If they can do so, they should be able to do so. But constitutionally, that's not actually a valid argument. In the end, it's about getting fundamentally a majority in the Parliament. But I think as a general rule, New Zealanders have taken the view that the largest party should have the first crack at forming a government.
And in terms of Winston Peters, do you think that the public's view has softened towards National working with him in terms of not ruling him out this time around?
Well, my sense would be more would be in favour of us working with him than not, if that meant that there was a national-led government for a third term. I think in the end, people might not love with us working with a whole bunch of different political parties, but MMP is designed to deliver that kind of outcome. And the second real important point is, for a lot of our supporters, they may not love New Zealand First or some of the other coalition partners we're thinking about, but they sure as little green apples don't want a Labour Greens government.
Does the change in ACT leadership, the fact they're untested, these two, have you rethinking a possible deal with them?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're going to make a call on who we're going to work with, and in terms of what formal accommodations we might not have, much closer to the election, as I pointed out last week, and really nothing changes with the leadership selections.
Did that Jamie White selection surprise you at all?
No, I mean, look, I saw him at the function most of you attended, I think, on Wednesday night. At the time, he was talking me through the board makeup, and he was confident that he had the numbers. Now, lots of politicians are, but in the end, he was confident he would get there, so I wasn't entirely surprised.
Does he strike you as a stable individual in the likes of John Lithgow?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the first time I met him. I thought he was a thoroughly good, decent guy. He seems to communicate well. I saw him on Breakfast TV this morning. I thought he came across well. David Seymour, I don't know, but again, the limited bits I've seen on TV seems articulate. In the end, Active obviously decided to make a generational change and to present a new and fresh faces for the party, and in the end, that's about it for them.
Has Paul Goldsmith been told not to seek votes for himself?
No, I mean, look, as I said to you, I'm quite keen to be as transparent as I can be prior to the election. I definitely intend to do that. And obviously one of those decisions comes around what we do in Epsom. Everyone's aware of that, but we'll make that call much closer to election day.
Will Paul Goldsmith stand in Epsom?
He's been selected as Nationals candidate.
Has the school thought that you proposed a flag referendum to shore up New Zealand First and Conservatives' chances of the election, given something going on and encourage their voters to come out and vote? What's your response to that?
Oh, well, everyone will have their own range of views. I mean, as I said last week, that's an issue that I think is worthy of senior ministers having a discussion about whether they want to advance. I mean, it's one of those issues that's sort of been percolating around for quite a long period of time. So I think we do need to reach a decision about whether we're going to test the public's appetite for that or not. I mean, my views on it are now well known. To me, it fits into a kind of nation building sort of issue about where we see ourselves going, how we want to identify ourselves. But in the end, we haven't had that discussion with senior ministers. We'll do that in the fullness of time. But what the electoral implications of it are, like so many other issues, very difficult to dissect one on their own.
But why now? What motivated you to change your sort of impetus last week?
Well, I mean, firstly, I was asked directly the question about the flag again, but I don't think actually a hell of a lot's changed from last week to some time earlier. I mean, we've been asked about that issue. I've always said I think it's actually quite a challenging issue to get across the line. I think it's evenly balanced, but not impossible actually to get a majority there. At the end of the day, there's so many issues we're going to have to consider what National is going to do as its position is going into the election, or if it wins a third term.
When did you start thinking about having a referendum? When did that come into your mind?
Well, late last year, I started thinking through a bit more of the issues about how and whether we could get that issue up. I mean, look, in the end, I've always been of the view you couldn't just change the flag without a referendum, so there's nothing terribly unique about that.
When did you start thinking about having a referendum at this election?
Well, all of those decisions about timing have yet to be made, and also indeed whether we'll advance it. Something we genuinely have to go through with our guys. I can come back to you in the fullness of
I
time.
guess what Andrew's point is, and the point of many people who speak about it, is why did you suddenly come out with it at a plastic factory that you wanted to have a referendum on the New Zealand flag?
Or was it because I want a plastic flag? It was because I was asked the questions, I answered it.
Had you planned on announcing it closer to Waitangi?
Well, it doesn't matter when exactly the timing of saying that. I mean, in the end, I've said it and I'm happy I have.
So when will you discuss it with senior ministers, for example,
Oh, sometime next month or so.
Was
Well,
it
have you
discussed?
asked for any official advice on it?
I've had some advice on it.
You talked
Have you
about it
asked
as
for new advice?
They asked me whether I want more of it, and I will be getting some more, but I've had some over the years.
What was the advice?
Oh, it depends on which question you're asking, but there's a range of different things. They just talk about the process of what and how you could do things in some history.
How soon did they indicate that there could possibly be a referendum or a change of flag?
Well, they don't. They just give advice. You know, if you want specific advice on timing, the electoral office will always give you advice on how much time they think they need and the process and all those sorts of things. I've had a range of different advice in that kind of area in the past.
As you talk about closer cooperation with Australia, what areas do you see that there could be?
Look, I think there's a range of things. I mean, obviously, it's our most important relationship, and it's probably our broadest relationships. Of course, there'll be economic issues that we talk about in terms of capital investment, in terms of basically investment with each other and trade with each other. But equally, we're both co-hosting the Cricket World Cup next year. We'll both be commemorating 100 years of the Gallipoli campaign. We'll be wanting to talk about that. Obviously, we will raise the issue again of New Zealanders in Australia. We're talking about that. There's a number of areas where we work, and I'd expect us to go through all of those.
How high is the minimum wage likely to go in April?
Well, my expectations will be that it will go up. It's gone up every year that we've been in office, and you'll have to wait and see what the final number is, but I'm sure we can speculate on it.
Is the government likely to take a consistent approach?
Probably. I mean, we always try and balance simple facts of what do we think the market can pay without impacting on people's jobs. That's really the balancing act. And I think we've got that balance about right. I mean, we've been quite brave, I think, some years. I mean, the labour markets haven't been easy over the last 5 years, and we've slowly pushed up the minimum wage. And we'll continue to do that. I mean, we want people to earn as high wages as we can, but we don't think legislating per se is the answer for all of that. And it's a relatively small number of people on the minimum wage. I think from memory it's about 90,000 approximately. But obviously it has a flow-on effect for people that earn near the minimum wage.
Given that it's getting things are getting easier in the labour market, is there a case to go above 25 cents?
There might be. I mean, yeah, at the margins.
Would you expect employers themselves to be increasing wage inflation more this year?
Well, I think Bill made those comments that he had the expectation that it's likely they'll want to do a bit of that. I mean, as the labour markets get tighter, you can certainly see some industries where labour rates are rising. I mean, construction being one obvious area where there's now pressure. Some of these very heavily skilled areas, you also see pressure in the labour markets. Inflation's likely to be a little higher this year than it was last year. So I'd expect to see wage rounds going through, and, I don't know, 2 or 3% at least, we'll see.
Will it be lifted to $14 an hour?
Well, we'll come back with the exact number in a few weeks' time.
There's a case over the Court of Appeal, these
Terra Nova.
carers, Is there discrimination against females when it comes to pay?
Well, look, when that case actually comes out, we'll be in a position to respond, but it's before the courts, and I'll get in deep trouble if I start coming on to that.
In general, though, okay, across the group.
Well, I just would be really nervous about commenting about that today.
When will you be making an announcement about the minimum wage?
Don't know the exact timing. Mr. Bridges will be able to let you know, but I've had some discussions with him. So.
Prime Minister, when might you make an announcement about Genesis?
Not today. I know there's been lots of rumours going around today, but not today. But soon. I mean, again, senior ministers talked about that issue last week. Where it's no secret we'd like to complete the government's program. We believe there is a position where we can take advice and when we can take Genesis to the market. So soon. Don't know the exact timing of that yet.
Are you confident the sale will proceed?
Yeah, I'm very much of the view it's going to take place. I certainly haven't seen any contrary advice. In fact, I saw some advice last night which certainly indicated that a sale is definitely a possibility, and Treasury were confident we could do it.
Do you have any worries about, given again opinion polls and what have you, that could impact negatively on your support in election year?
I don't think so really. I mean, to me it was the big issue of 2011, but it's not really going to be the big issue of 2014. I mean, if by then the program will have been completed, I think it's highly unlikely National will go into the 2014 election promising more sales. I think we've had a good program, it's worked effectively. There isn't really much that would fit the criteria that's applied to the current companies. So I think it's a bit of a 2011 issue myself.
And
It's back on the
presumably
budget.
this year, to an election year, there might be use of a future investment fund to try and play up as what you see the benefits of the process.
Well, to us, it's always been about being able to buy new assets without having more debt on the balance sheet, and actually having those companies operate more efficiently. And those two things are, absolutely relevant. They're not just relevant because it's election. Why now?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
Well, I don't think
prices of all of those that you've quoted so far have sunk.
Well, that's not
The
that's
outlook
not strictly
for-
true, is it? I mean, I haven't looked at Meridian today, but Meridian last time I looked was pretty much at its float level. Yeah, okay, MRP is lower than where we floated it, although it does have a bonus issue that comes with it, so loyalty shares, so it's not quite as bad as it looked. But all of them are reasonably high dividend stocks, assuming they stick to their dividend program. So, look, at the end of the day, things are worth what the market will pay for them. I don't think the dynamics are going to change around the electricity sector. So there are known commodity, but in my view, having the mixed ownership program has been the right thing to do. It certainly has ensured that we have less debt.